the last talk is about the future of Ethereum scaling. And we're having Dominik Schmid again. Welcome back, man. Bruno Lulinski is going to be the moderator. Vijay, Junda, and Nick are also in the panel. Grab a mic, guys. I'm going to give this one to you. Have fun.
Cool. Thank you.
Hello.
All right, we're a smaller group, and I'm generally not a huge fan of the panel structure of just like passing it down, asking everyone the same question, and moving around. So let's be fluid with this. If people have questions from the audience, feel free to raise your hands and interrupt the flow. So let's start with, as quick as possible, let's keep it nice and short. We will do this for 2 questions. The first 2 questions, we'll go in order. First, I'd like to hear each of you explain in as few words as possible, like, what does your company do? And while you're explaining it, hopefully relate that to just like, how does that apply to Ethereum scaling?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm the Chief Business Officer at Eclipse, which is a modular roll-up provider. So basically, we allow you to pick and choose pieces of the stack that serve your use case as an app developer, primarily differentiated on scalability and customizability, and we do support the EVM as well, so you can get a lot of that functionality while still being EVM native.
I'm Junda, co-founder and CTO of Celer Network. We operate one of the largest bridges, connecting to more than 40 different blockchains. And now our latest effort is on zero-knowledge-based data attestation for Omnichain. So essentially, we enable a new dimension of data to smart contract, and that dimension is history, is the time dimension.
I'm Nick, the CEO of Fuel, and we build the fastest modular execution layer, and that applies to Ethereum in the sense that we are innovating on the execution side of transaction systems, and our rollups and the things that we build will settle on Ethereum and will help scale the Ethereum ecosystem, but sort of beyond the EVM and beyond EVM architectures, so to something new.
Hi, I'm Dominik, and from Polygon Miden, and we are basically trying to be as fast as these guys, but with zero-knowledge proofs. The thing is that our users will be able to create their own zero-knowledge proofs to maintain or to retain privacy and high throughput.
Thank you for the concise responses there. By the way, I work for Aztec. Aztec is a zero-knowledge rollup on Ethereum, also doing a similar ballpark as Polygon Miden, and also we're developing an open source programming language that makes ZK app development easy called Noir. So now I want to take one more time to run through the path here, and we're going to take 20 seconds to explain, like, interpret this question as you please, but what is it about crypto that you find valuable, that you find important? And if you want to interpret that easiest way possible, like, how would you explain to parents, to family, to friends, to girlfriends, to whatever, how would you explain, like, why it is important what you're working on day to day?
Yeah, so I think for me, I used to be on Wall Street and got into crypto about 8 years ago, primarily because it just found it to be a super interesting combination of, like, not just the markets and finance piece, but also bring in kind of the technology solution and kind of the legal coordination piece into the same system. So just really interesting kind of social coordination mechanism. So that's what drew me in. And then, I think now, it's like 8 years later, still primary use case for a lot of things is DeFi and like market speculation. But I think that's kind of created a lot of groundwork and room for a lot of these other use cases that all of us on this panel are looking to support. It's kind of created space for those to come about and start to see the pieces of those come together. Still like early, and a lot of like the early games are pretty nascent, but excited to see kind of a lot of these solutions get really kind of solution oriented and start catering to a much broader array of developers who can take advantage of what decentralized databases essentially and coordination systems offer. Yeah.
For me, I would say I realized a long time ago everything we do is essentially fundamentally just do a wealth redistribution. Right? And in almost all of the fields, the rules are already written by someone else. Crypto is just one of the very rare opportunity we get to start from scratch. That's simply it.
So for me, in the way that we kind of explain it to the team and also people that are coming in from non-crypto land, to join Fuel 2, is that I think a lot of the systems we build with crypto are designed to be more fault tolerant and available for people when corporations or governments are not necessarily there for them, or systems are not working well for people just in the world in general. And I think crypto offers a different, fundamentally and philosophically different kind of tool to help them, and basically, empowering people to have more control and sovereignty over their life, and as well be maybe more ready to handle the kinds of challenges that I think people are going to face over the next 20, 30 years of humanity. So, yeah.
Well, I think the internet and the financial system, they need an update, and I think we can do that.
Yeah, there we go. That was nice and quick. Cool. Well, ultimately what we're trying to do here is, I think for all four of you, we're all trying to convince developers to build using our technology in some way, shape, or form. And that'll flow down ultimately to end users via the applications that developers build using your tools. Yeah, how would you characterize this battle between alt VMs and EVMs? There's the network effects versus the starting fresh with no baggage. Like, how do you convince a developer to actually build on your architecture? Let's start with Nick.
Yeah, we have well, actually, I think Miden also has, a bit of a job ahead of them too. I would say the easiest way to pitch it to a team is, the existing systems that we're using, both the EVM and to an extent even some of the newer VMs and newer architectures, they all come with actually quite a bit of baggage. And when you're looking at these new execution layers or these new kinds of rollups or systems that we can use in different tools, basically the EVM will be around for a long, long time, just like PHP is around for a very long time. But ultimately, you'll start to want to experiment with a larger tool set, something more efficient, more scalable, cleaner, with, I would say, just a better design in mind. And for developers, I think there's always going to be a certain set of developers that are just, they have to deal with business decisions, so they're going to go with something traditional. But then there is always a set of developers who feel like part of their ethos and how they're innovating is to be on the cutting edge and try something different. And so I would say, for us, we convince them by basically saying, look, all this existing stuff is fine, but if you really want to build something different, you really want to get ahead, and you really want to try something new, our architecture is going to give you that. And it's also going to give you something that has the considerations in mind of rollups and modularity and a lot of these newer designs that not even the kind of post-Ethereum chains would even have considered. So yeah, in our sense, we get to have all the fun. That's kind of the way I pitch it. Yeah.
Dominik, could I ask you maybe play off that a bit, but also talk about you work for a company that has an EVM piece and a non-EVM piece. What is that like? How do you manage that internal pressure, if any, to either cater to EVM developers or not?
Well, actually, in Polygon, it's a lucky situation because we will use the same bridge at the end, so we will all be secured by Ethereum. And the nice part of creating a rollup is actually you can experiment with the design, right? So, and that's your first question. Also, what you said is to convince a developer to use a non-EVM rollup is actually just you have to provide different features. So if a developer wants to have privacy or sustainable high throughput, then the EVM might come to its limits. So it's very hard to, Aztec, you had a whole blog post about it, but privacy without UTXO and privacy without client-side proving, it's either very expensive or just impossible. Let's stop it there. And high throughput without parallel transaction execution is also super hard, and the EVM will not be able to do that. So, and then if you provide different features, I think all the other things will come. So the end user will not see and know which rollup are you using and what the gas structure in the rollup is. So no user should care about that. So if your developers will be able to create an app that shows these features and you provide the infrastructure to make these features available, then I think it's a no-brainer to convince developers to use that. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe let's move to Vijay. Nick mentioned business pressures to make decisions, and you are chief business officer, right? Yeah. How do you manage those like internal business pressures of making short-term decisions, either to cater towards venture firms or investors or employees who want liquidity, with like the long-term ethos that we were talking about, like why you care about working in crypto, what we're building towards, credible neutrality, censorship resistance. How do you manage those short-term business pressures with like long-term pie in the sky, we want to build this decentralized ecosystem pressures?
Yeah, so I'll maybe answer that in like two lenses. So I think one is just like how we're building out kind of like the Eclipse offering, and like we've taken kind of a very bifurcated approach, and like very much like we're still pre-mainnet, but so far we've been working with customers to do centralized deployments where the sequencer is centralized, and long-term the vision is for Eclipse to be more of a settlement rollup with the decentralized sequencer. But sort of as we get there and as we build it out, we've been working in like very targeted ways with enterprise type customers or kind of marquee Web3 customers in DeFi, gaming, social, and DeepIn to kind of really build deployments of Eclipse that take advantage of either the scalability aspect and the parallelization I was talking about earlier, or customization in some way. So being able to abstract gas for users or pay gas in the native token, implement privacy preserving features, or KYC. So these are all kind of customizations you can use Eclipse for. And we've been really trying to look for developers and apps that take advantage of those without necessarily going with more of a spray and pray approach, which obviously is easier further down the line. But I'd say that's kind of been our balance. We're focused on the long term there, but an example of like how we sort of shifted product strategy short term as well is like, so Eclipse supports like, you pick what you want at the VM layer, you pick what you want for data availability and consensus, and you can sort of pick and choose that. And we support both the EVM as well as the Solana C-level VM, and actually got our start in kind of the Solana ecosystem. But we've actually recently, in partnership with Neon, have launched basically an SVM-compatible EVM implementation. So you can get the benefits of parallelization by using this VM. And inside the SVM, there is what we call like the Sputnik VM that reads from the EVM and translates it. So you still get the benefits of what you would get if you say had to use the Solana execution. And so we're doing things like that to kind of bring, again, forward progress to the Ethereum ecosystem and go to where developers are now, which is, especially in this market at least, fairly Ethereum-centric. So that's kind of an example of like just, adapting a bit to the shorter term as well.
Yeah, Junda, I want to give you an opportunity to answer a similar question. Like, you're co-founder of your project, how do you manage short-term business pressures with long-term like alignment and these pie-in-the-sky beliefs about decentralization and whatnot?
Yeah, I would say, for our team, we don't, from the technical side, I don't feel we have like short-term business pressures. Maybe we just have a much stronger, or like the engineering team has a bigger saying inside the decision-making process. We kind of see what's needed, like especially just a little bit back to the EVM, non-EVM, because our proposition is a bridge, so we just say yes, all of them. There's no choice. We just connect to all of them. And when we push the new ZK-based data attestation framework called Brevis, it's just all of them, right? Omnichain, it's kind of come to our nature. We see the small steps we have been taking almost ideally align with what we want to achieve, just how we use different like technology pieces here and there. Sometimes we just have to be a little bit more patient, wait for the technology to like be more mature, like zero knowledge, like faster, less buggy, and more memory efficient, right? And all that. And on the other side, I would say just the business team will always go out and do all the outreaching partnerships. what actually comes down as a feedback to the engineering team, we still decide on our own like internal schedule. Yeah.
So to summarize your projects in a couple of words, we've got modular, Omnichain, modular, EVM plus alt VM, depending on what side of Polygon you're talking about. Yeah, like you're all building for developers at the end of the day. What should users think about this? Like there's just no way that users can balance the security and trust assumptions and the different companies building different things and what the developers are using and audit the code. Like if we're building for users at the end of the day, how should users think about this? How do you encourage your developers to build products? I don't know if this is still working.
Yeah.
How do you encourage your developers to build? How do you encourage your developers to build projects that abstract this away? How do you communicate this to end users? What does this look like? I'll let any of you volunteer to take this one.
I'll start, I guess, and we'll go around. But well, to be honest, I think end users shouldn't. If blockchain is successful in the aims of all the different things that everyone's doing right now, with all the different architectures and everything else, we should be at a place pretty soon, I think, with a lot of architectures where you shouldn't know, the user probably shouldn't even know they're using a blockchain at all. So if you can get rid of that concept almost entirely from the user experience, then you've kind of done it. So the user shouldn't need to think about that per se, but similar to how a user would probably think about how their money is stored in a bank, there's probably some aspect of education and understanding that a normal person might have to have. But I think that typically, and the way humans have already solved this, is you offshore that trust to firms that are building on your behalf or helping you through the process to get to blockchain. So in many senses, I think firms do have a responsibility to basically educate people on the softer side of things. But fundamentally, we can achieve fantastic levels of security and oversight and user experience, even with the existing architecture we have now. It's just going to be to varying degrees of success and varying degrees of scale or varying degrees of security or privacy, for example. So that would be the way that I would think about that.
I just want to very lightly push back on the fact of end users actually understanding the banking structure and where they're keeping their money.
Well, they don't. They just trust the bank, and there's a reputation to uphold, right? So it's how human beings typically are, I would say.
But I thought the hope of the whole movement is you do not have to trust the bank.
You still have to trust someone telling you how to design your own trust model so that you can use crypto. So you need to educate people to have their own model of thinking so that they could even approach thinking about the space. But I think the winners of the more reputable architectures and the more reputable things will always surface, and then the end user should have some semblance of what they're interacting with, but there should be enough protections and controls at all levels so that you're not going to walk into an obvious blacklisted contract or something like that. But from the user's perspective, they shouldn't know anything about this, just like a user wouldn't know anything about what AWS service their Slack is running on or things like that. Should just use it.
Totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, Junda, maybe tell us, like Omnichain, the whole concept is like you don't know what chain you're
I
using,
think,
right?
The thing here, the fun part of our business, actually, we serving both the end user and the project at the same time, right? So we have the directly to end user asset NFT bridge. We literally have a pretty strong customer support team, right, 24/7 to answer exactly questions like the user say, what is private key, what is MetaMask, how do I sign, right? So those are the growing pain we have to take no matter what. On the other side, our SDK is serving all the aggregators, like all the liquidity kind of fancy DeFi projects. They just treat, by connecting to our SDK, the developers have one less thing to worry about. Right? They no longer need to say, oh, do I go with Polygon, for example, or Aztec? We say, why not both, right? So you start your project, you deploy your contracts on both chains, and with the kind of omni-chain approach, at least we have the things to worry about from the Web3 projects. There is one thing called which chain do I choose? We can cross that out. Right? I think that's kind of, I'm totally agree with the more we do on the infrastructure layer, the less we can make the developers' life easier.
Yeah. So just kind of jumping off that too, I think the way Eclipse views the world, like we're very kind of developer oriented, like solution oriented, because of where we sit and what we're doing with modular. And so, just as an example, like this week we launched Eclipse's self-serve offering, which is oriented towards like more of kind of smaller developers, like an audience that's coming in, like perhaps just like from more of a mainstream lens, and making it easy to kind of one-click deploy a roll-up where you pick and choose like exactly what you're using at each part of the stack, right? And we'll continue to add support for other VMs like Fuel, Move, and ZKs continue to stay ahead of that. But really, like trying to simplify that UI, even for the developer, I think is super important and probably an area where we can have some real impact with a mainstream audience. I think a lot of like the building that's happened so far in scaling is very much like for people that are at ETC, right? And we know that's like a huge market, and there's a lot of sophistication there, but there's also kind of, those developers are very comfortable with the complexity, right? So I used to be at Uniswap prior to this, and then helped launch and scale DYDX, and like those are two products that have very much leaned into the kind of ethos and technology of those respective ecosystems, right? So Ethereum in Uniswap's case and the L2s, and then in DYDX's case with Cosmos, and like it's very like complexity seeking, but I think increasingly like as we grow and like see the next cycle, like it's almost, I think to Nick's point, like what we're building is almost like AWS, right? If we're successful when we almost like, it's no longer like the primary topic of discussion in a way, but there's a lot of work to do to get there.
Dominik, I want to give you a chance if you want to answer this, or.
Yeah, maybe just very short, but I really love these examples there, like Uniswap, for example, and DYDX. They, I think, made a great job to basically abstract as much away from the user as they can, and on the other hand, like they're just great protocols with like a fair amount of complexity in it. And yeah, I think like imagine Ethereum is scaled now, so then the next thing will be to abstract lots of stuff away, but we will have this inherent tension that if we want to have non-custodial usage and users are responsible for their funds, because no one else should be responsible for your funds, then it will be very hard to get the same experience as Apple Pay or my credit card. And I think, yeah, we cannot, in that case, eat the cake and keep the cake, if this is the saying. Yeah.
I think we can eat the cake and have it too.
We can definitely eat the cake.
No.
Well, I agree with you all largely, but just to play devil's advocate, the two examples we've called out there are trading coins back and forth with each other, right? Like, have we really reached any useful consumer adoption if and I'm a big fan of both of those protocols, but if Uniswap and DYDX are our avenue to mainstream adoption. So my question back to you is like, are we ready for useful applications on L2s on Ethereum or on your respective execution layers? If so, what are they? Or are we still in this infrastructure phase? How long is it going to take us to get out of there? Yeah, all of our teams are building infrastructure for developers to find this consumer application, right? So like what is it? Where are we getting with this? And when can we expect an end state? When can the people in the crowd here expect to use crypto for more than trading coin A back to coin B, back to coin C, and whatnot? Who wants to take it?
Do you have to like use Bitcoin to buy a Starbucks coffee? How does it improve the experience, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think, for that, my personal take is it depends on define a useful application, right? So if, say, there are literally people come into this industry, fulfill their lifetime goals, that, to me, kind of is useful or meaningful to them, right? If we say, it could serve, we already read from the news, someone in like developing or emerging markets that they kind of they don't have existing banking infrastructure. Of course, that's like more obvious use case. But for like countries or jurisdictions with pretty robust and like hundreds of years old banking system, as a separate alternative value system approach, the first stop application will still be in the financial system. It's just up to everyone to decide how much is really useful, right? Otherwise, all the people in Wall Street hedge funds, what are they doing, right? Yeah, I think that's my personal take for that. Yeah.
Oh, I also just add, like my Uber driver recently, just like yesterday, was from Tunisia, and we got into a conversation about a lot of things, like Tunisian history and some randoms. It was a great Uber ride.
Oh, tell us your favorite fact of Tunisian history.
Yeah. Well, he said it was the Carthage is like the oldest city. I don't know. I got to check, but the main thing was, so we were getting into this conversation, and then we get into a conversation about how really just people who are doing normal jobs and normal life right now, like there's not a lot of ways for them to get ahead, either on their savings or in their life. And he said, well, I'm not going to live in Paris forever. I've been here for 18 years. I'm gonna get out soon. And then he's like, and I'm gonna get out because I have a bunch of crypto. And like he showed me his wallet, and I was like, oh God, okay. But the thing is, the point is there's a lot of people out there who crypto is one way for them to at least have a shot at something. So he did buy some random coin. It was not good. I told him not to do this. But the point is like there's this aspect of it, which is that we might not think it's useful as much, but for him, that's everything. That's his way to potentially get out of France, go live the life that he wants to live. So it's for people who live or come from like G20 countries, crypto is not as interesting to us. We have banking and credit cards and infrastructure and everything else. But to a lot of people in the world, they don't have anything close to that. So even, we talk about trading, but trading is really useful. Trading is the fundamental behavior that humans have been doing for a long, long time. So to say that's not actually, when as people in the room this is going to be useful, well, fundamentally, human behaviors don't change. Like they remain the same. You want to go to point A to B, use a cart, use a horse, use a cab, use a Tesla. It's the same problem. So problems don't change for humans. We do the same things over and over again. So you can't expect crypto to just come up with new things for humans to do. But what it can do is provide a different kind of system for people that is going to bring a level of fault tolerance or privacy or decentralization or accessibility that they don't currently have, and that's why it's worth potentially trillions of dollars and not just a fad, basically. Yeah, that makes sense.
I like a lot of what you said, and on the other hand, we should also try to that these people don't at the end pay us in a token sale and lose all their money, because like this I would see is one of the biggest problems in crypto. Like if lots of people pay or buy random coins, at the end it's always ending up at the same very small fraction of the crypto people. And but yeah, like as I would say, a useful application that we can see would be an on-chain order book exchange, where you have the same, like it's still trading coins, so one can argue if it's useful or not, but like at least people do it for whatever reason. And then like if you could have it on-chain, non-custodial, that would be a huge step forward, looking at FTX or whatever's going in the other exchanges. And so within our ecosystem, that could be a cool thing, but yeah.
A reminder for the crowd that every project here is trying to recreate FTX at some point, but just not with FTX's founder and technology.
Yeah. You want to go ahead?
Yeah.
I said we weren't going to go in a line, but I'll allow it.
So I think there's like this aspect of crypto where like everything is like a transaction, right? And so I think that just like conditions like a lot of product development and like app development to revolve around that like financialization concept. But like again, I think that's like not a bad thing, and like it's just created like a lot of breathing room to like take lots of shots on goal with non-financial use cases. But that's something like that we're thinking a lot about Eclipse, and again, kind of like co-building with a lot of our like early partners and customers is like where can they kind of implement a unique gameplay aspect on chain, right? So maybe there's kind of like a prize pot type dynamic where people who like complete XYZ milestone in the game are eligible for this, or there's kind of like a loot bag, like these kinds of things that like genuinely use like the benefits of on-chain for either gameplay, and then obviously like there's asset representation and sort of like skins or NFTs that you can put on chain, like trading an AMM. That piece is definitely like more financialized, but I think starting from there, but definitely like just doing the hard work and like saying, we say no to things that we think don't take advantage of like the uniqueness of Eclipse, right? And I think that helps us get better about product market fit for sure. But yeah, I think it's just lots of repeated effort around this and like working with, ideally even developers who come in from outside the space, right? Like a lot of our gaming customers come from like the traditional gaming world and Unity and want to implement unique gameplay using more of like a scaling solution. Or so yeah, that's sort of my take on that. Like I think it's going to take time, and it's this prize off in the distance still, but yeah, I think it'll happen. Yeah.
Cool. Now I want to take any spicy questions from the crowd. So ruminate on it for a couple minutes. However, I want to ask one last question in the panel format. A lot of people are burnt out. I mean, price go down makes a lot of people burn out. So like, what would you tell a developer in your ecosystem that's thinking about dropping everything and going to LLMs or space tech or some other frontier technology that's building towards something better? Like, what would you tell them? How would you encourage them or not? What advice would you give a developer in your ecosystem that's thinking about, yeah, just leaving crypto and going to build somewhere else? Yeah, let's start with you, Dominik.
Yeah, sure. Like I would say, I've seen some ups and downs. Like I'm in here since 2016 or so. So it always goes down and then it goes up. But if he finds something more interesting, then I would even encourage him to try like AI or whatever he wants to like code about. And then I think we should attract by doing interesting stuff. And so maybe in 2 years he comes back. But what should not hold him in the crypto space is the price of his like crypto assets or wallets, I would say. But on the other hand, obviously that's a big motivation. So
yeah, I've been doing crypto for 10 years, so I've aged significantly as a person, and it has damaged my health in a huge way. So I've been through a lot, and I would just say that well, there's a few things to keep someone here. The first thing is that LLMs, or the GPT stuff that's happening right now, it's very hard to build a moat around that as a team. So good luck actually building a business around that that's going to last longer than 6 months. So the first thing, and the reason why is because I can write you the GPT, transformer model pretty quickly. There's not a lot there. So if you have some wins, in data, maybe you can crush it. But in general, I think GPT is a very additive system to existing things. It's going to make existing products way better, and that's wonderful. But you need the existing product. So starting from scratch, pretty tough. With crypto, the way that I see it is crypto sits between two kind of things. There's a commercial aspect to it, but there's also an ideological one. Independently, either one is not interesting. So if you just look at crypto commercially, it's not interesting. Server's better, NASDAQ's faster, everything in the normal space, the normal internet might be better. The ideological space, if you look at it too closely, it will never take off because there's no commercial firepower beneath it. So there's no underpinning to why you would want to do it. But crypto combines both of them together. So the commercial aspect and the philosophical aspect or ideological aspect. And that's what makes it unique as a system and something that's very transformative. And I think every year that I've thought crypto was going to end, while simultaneously feeling like it was going to end, what kept me going through it was just that the existing financial system is way worse and way more of a Ponzi than crypto ever could be, even with all of our scams. And so quite frankly, and I joke about this, but like the crypto Ponzi is better than the banking Ponzi. And in many senses, everything is a game and money is a game. And so fundamentally, I think we we actually have a better system. But they don't want people, and they being banks and money and existing financial institutions, don't want people to feel that. So that's the way I would interpret it.
Yeah, I want to extend on what Nick just said. It's very similar to what I started in the beginning of my view of crypto. As fundamentally a value transfer system and a method to do wealth redistribution. Right? And for AI, I do have a, in this industry, people talk about narratives a lot. I have a personal proposal. The ultimate narrative the crypto will ever have, it will be the last link between human and machine intelligence, because in the end, you do not trust machine anyway, and machine will not trust human. So the only common minimum factor will be math, and that's exactly what crypto built upon. Yeah.
Oh, that was beautiful. I like
That was good. I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely some interesting opportunities like the convergence of the two. So, like AI developers taking advantage of crypto mechanisms. So excited to see what comes out of that. Probably like still kind of a hype-heavy space now, but there definitely feels like there will be some kind of flagship apps that get built at that convergence. And then the other thing I'd say too is like I think power laws like AI development is like much more power law based, right? There's like a handful of players who are gonna like accrue a lot of like the real value, and right now, lots of like products are getting funded just to take a flyer and like, make sense for VCs to like spread their bets, similar to how they did in sort of the last crypto bull cycle. But I think that's like ephemeral, right? And at some point, people will figure out who's kind of accruing effects of scale, and like players like OpenAI. So I think we'll see that like sort of turbocharged in AI, and like that's gonna like push some kind of developer activity back into crypto from that, and like it's all just like it's going through its own hype cycle as well. Yeah.
Cool. I said I wanted to leave time for one spicy question. Who's got one? Yes, let's hear it.
Why do we think Alt L2s will make it when Alt L1s didn't make it, or hasn't made it yet? Sorry, trying to be spicy.
Oh, that seems like it was directed at you, Dominik. Go for it.
Well, because Alt L2s are secured by Ethereum, so they are still in the ecosystem. You will have trustless bridges. I know there's a discussion about that, but yeah. But basically, this is the reason why. Yeah, and then like users can move funds trustlessly if we manage to have this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for us, the gravitational force of the universe for crypto is really still Ethereum. And I think Ethereum holds some kind of almost spiritual momentum for the entire space. So going far from that into your own layer ones and your own systems is going to be very, very difficult. For Fuel, we have our own virtual machine and our own architecture, so we're already have a huge, difficult uphill battle to climb. But what is interesting is that we're still very close with Ethereum. So we're still bridged to Ethereum. We still use Ethereum assets. We use and support Ethereum wallets. And so for the user, they won't know the difference between whether they're using necessarily Miden or a Solana VM or something else in between. But for us, we're still very connected and aligned with the Ethereum space in the sense that I think it just carries a lot of the weight of the entirety of the space. So I would say we have a pretty good shot in making it, even more so than EVM chains, just because if you're bonded to that system, it's not a system designed to scale. It's not a system designed to hit mass adoption, and everyone knows that. So every team is going to try to get out of the EVM as fast as they can, but they still need to deal with the baggage of what they've committed to. So with Fuel, we dump backwards compatibility entirely, and I think Miden, similarly, not Polygon, but Miden particularly, and as well, Aztec and everyone else. It's just, why keep building with this machine if it's just going to keep holding us back,
Yeah. Well, I think we have to wrap this up. So, yeah. Thank you all for joining. I think it's funny how it all comes back to Ethereum, right?
Yep.
Yep. So thank you, everyone. Have a nice night. Have a good week.